An out-of-air emergency can be a stressful and often life-threatening event. In fact, according to the Divers Alert Network, 20 of the 32 diver fatalities that occurred in the US and Canada in 2016 were contributed to drowning. These could all have been prevented if the divers discussed and stuck to a solid diving plan that included gas management, buddy team operation, coupled with gear use proficiency and good diving habits. However, if you or your buddy happen to run out of air on a dive, it is important that you understand and have practiced the out-of-air procedure before. One day, it could very well save your life. There are many schools of thought regarding the best way to share air in an out-of-air situation. In reality, there is no standard best way to share air. The best way to share air in any particular out-of-air situation depends on a myriad of variables one cannot necessarily control or predict. The gear configuration you have been learning with includes 2 second stage regulators, a primary on a shorter hose, and a yellow alternate, which is often on a longer hose. This configuration is fairly standard throughout the diving world, but there are other air source configurations out there. We are going to learn with this configuration, but if you come across a buddy with a different one, it's important that you have discussed the ways to share air with that gear configuration. The alternate air source is often on a longer hose, with the idea that it would be easier to facilitate sharing of that air source to a low-on-air diver. So, it may seem intuitive that a buddy would donate his alternate air source to his out-of-air buddy. However, there are some factors that may be considered before choosing that option. First is the tendency of an out-of-air diver to be in a state of panic when swimming urgently to his buddy to start sharing. When a diver is in panic, he may not have the mental clarity to pursue an alternate air source which is stowed under your buddy's right arm and not easily accessed. Also, he may not be able to easily remove it from the keeping device or ensure that he places it in his mouth right side up. In fact, he might place it in his mouth upside down. And the last thing any diver would want is to urgently inhale off a regulator and expect life-saving gas to enter his lungs only to inhale a surge of water instead because the regulator he was breathing on was installed upside down. Finally, if a diver is properly weighted and out of air, he will have a difficult time staying negatively buoyant, especially if he is retaining air in his lungs due to panic and forgetting about the number one rule of scuba diving, which is to never hold your breath and always breathe. Because of these factors, there's a strong likelihood that the out-of-air diver would approach his buddy from above and out of his buddy's field of vision, preventing his buddy the opportunity to recognize the out-of-air emergency and the ability to offer his alternate air source. Since the out-of-air diver is likely in a state of panic, and the closest and best known source of air he can see is in his buddy's mouth as he rapidly approaches from above, he will be inclined to rapidly remove his buddy's primary air source from his buddy's mouth to gain access to life-saving gas. To help address or mitigate some of these factors, you are being trained to offer your primary second stage to an out-of-air diver instead of offering your alternate. The alternate is for you. The primary reason is that the donating diver is likely to have a clearer state of mind and does not have the urgent need for life-saving gas and can manage the location, retrieval, and proper installation of his alternate into his mouth more effectively than his panicked buddy. Learning this way also reinforces the mechanics of locating one's alternate air source in the event that the diver unexpectedly and forcefully removes your primary second stage from your mouth. It is also very hard for the out-of-air diver to put the regulator in your mouth upside down when it's properly offered to the out-of-air diver by the donating diver. So let's go over all the mechanics for air sharing, starting with the out-of-air diver. Once you notice that you are out of air, the first thing you need to do is get your buddy's attention by banging on your tank or just waving at him and give him the "I'm out of air" signal. You will then start swimming at him at a controlled rate toward your buddy. One important thing to remember during this swim is to not hold your breath. To do so would expose you to a significant risk of pulmonary injury and would accelerate your urge to inhale while increasing your likelihood to panic. A natural reaction when someone is submerged and not breathing is to hold their breath. You need to make a conscious effort to continuously exhale tiny bubbles during this swim. Another important thing to remember is to keep your regulator in your mouth even though there's no air in your tank and it's not giving you gas until you receive custody of a good air source. As your CO2 level begins to build up, so will your urge to breathe. Eventually, your urge to breathe will overcome your ability to prevent inhalation, and the breathing reflex will force your diaphragm to contract, causing you to inhale. When this happens, it is better to have a regulator in your mouth attempting to inhale on an empty tank than have your regulator out of your mouth and inhale water. Once you swim to your buddy, you will gain control of his primary second stage regulator. Remove the bad one from your mouth and in place the good regulator, not ensuring that it's not upside down. Clear it and breathe naturally on it. Then you will lock wrists, your right wrist specifically, with your buddy to ensure you stay close together. Get control of your breathing and signal your buddy to go to the surface, which you will ascend at a normal 1/2 per second rate. Once you reach the surface, you will need to establish positive buoyancy by orally inflating. That's pressing the gray button and blowing in and then releasing, since you have no air in your tank. If you had air in your tank, you could just use the power inflate button. But since I don't have air in my tank, I need to orally inflate my BCD. If you're unable to do this in a comfortable or timely manner, remember you can always drop your weight belt or your weight integrated weights to establish positive buoyancy, but that should be a last resort. And that's the sequence for sharing air as the out-of-air diver. As the donating diver, once you notice your buddy signaling the out-of-air, you will start swimming at him in a controlled manner while simultaneously retrieving your alternate with a left hand sweep and pat motion. You're going to remove it from your keeper and then replace it in your mouth. With your right hand, you're going to remove your primary regulator, holding it by the hose so that it is oriented upward so your diver buddy cannot put it in his mouth upside down. Once your buddy takes custody of your primary second stage, you're going to lock wrists with them. You're making eye contact and you're in control of that dive now. So it's your responsibility to make eye contact, get him comfortable, make sure he gets a nice normal breathing pattern. Once he has collected himself and he's breathing normal and natural, check each other's air, or check your air rather, lock right arms, and signal let's enter dive, let's go up signal. Then you will both ascend at the together at the normal rate of 1/2 foot per second. Once he gets to the surface, then you will aid him and establish positive buoyancy, whether by dropping his weights as a last resort or using your buoyancy to help him stay aloft. Look for these aspects in the videos to follow.